Jayce Hall, who's going to join me on the main stage, is an artist who hails from Fargo, North Dakota. And his art challenges the beholder to really think about what they are seeing, and upon closer inspection, has some surprises in store. And so Jayce, we kind of found Jayce through some travel that the team was kind of currently underway. And I think with oftentimes what Five Dynamics and the methodology really does for an individual in terms of kind of understanding yourself, but then there's this kind of growth and trajectory from there. His art really spoke to us. So Jayce, welcome to our Leader Summit. And I guess first off, would love for you to just kind of give it a little introduction on yourself, your background, and maybe for those that aren't familiar with you, kind of where did your journey with art start, and kind of your creativity come from?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Like you guys said, my name is Jayce Hall. I'm an artist. I specialize in a style now. It's called micrography. So everything that I do is using words, names, and phrases. So it's kind of like if pointillism and crosshatching, just a few different styles, had a baby. And so the drawings are about as intricate as they sound. They usually take a hot minute to do, but they've been turning out cooler and cooler. A little bit about my art story is, so I grew up, a lot of people think that artists have always been artists, like when you're a kid and stuff like that, but I was really musical. That's what made sense to me. I could doodle a little bit, but it was just like drawing my favorite cartoon characters. There was nothing, nothing too impressive. Just kind of like went about life. And one year, I did college for 1 year, and my first semester, it was mostly to like appease my parents to go. So my first semester, I took a lot of the more standard classes. My second semester, I was like, oh, if I'm paying for this, might as well try some classes that I find interesting. And so I had a New Year's resolution actually that I wanted to be able to draw a reasonably good face by the end of the year. And it was a lot of fun, but I realized quickly I was the only non-art major in the class. And so I was just surrounded by all these art gods. And it was just like a little bit intimidating, but it was a really, really big sponge environment for me. Everybody was really encouraging. And I had a professor that he was really cool. He was like, he said it in a nicer way, but he's like, if you draw 15 minutes a day, eventually you'll figure it out. Like it's just your hand needs to learn how to do what your head's telling you to do. And so at that point, I wasn't feeling school anymore, dropped out, but I was enjoying still doing my little 15-minute drawings every day. We fast forward a little while. I was living in Honolulu, Hawaii on a whim. I got invited by a friend of a friend, and one thing led to another, and I had a little bit of a tricky situation where I wasn't getting enough hours in like to work. So I was only getting scheduled 11 to 13 hours a week in the fourth most expensive city in America.
Yep.
I think
Totally.
four is probably like three or something. It's three or four, something like that. And so I quickly ran out of money. I was freaking out. I was like, I didn't know where my next meal was going to come from. So I started posting more. Started telling people like, hey, if anybody wants to pay for my dinner, I'll draw you a turtle or something like that. And so I just like posting more. Luckily I had a lot of people that were interested, and so that's actually how my art career started. But another thing that the professor was so into that really ingrained in me was to always be trying different things. And so throughout the year, so that was in 2019 was when I sold my first little drawing. So I was so excited, little Jayce. And so yeah, since then I tried style after style after style. I heard about this one. It's been around for a while, but most of the time that I would see it, it was a little bit more cartoonish or caricature-y, where it'd just be basically like filling in the black shadows and then not having much detail. So I was wondering, is it possible to make something realistic in this style? So it was kind of like that idea of like reframing your perspective on something was. So I asked the question, and for the last 3.5 years, I've been trying to answer that, and the drawings have just been getting crazier and crazier. I'm so thrilled with how things have been going, and I've been doing this full time for about a year now, which I'm so grateful for, and getting all these
Cool.
fun opportunities. And yeah, that's a bit of my story.
Right on. Yeah, I mean, again, I think it was kind of this two ships crossing in terms of the theme reframe, and then your art was kind of, again, it was like kind of no brainer. So why don't we do so kind of the reveal? So you've actually been working on a piece for the summit.
Yeah.
Let's kind of show the audience and maybe do a little storytelling on what the story is within it.
Yeah, so this is the piece that we put together. It turned out really, really fun. The whole idea was to just kind of show progression and moving forward. It's kind of the vibe that I got from it. You guys will see later in a video a lot more of the details that are going on in this one, but I can explain it real quick. So basically, I'm trying to hold it relatively still.
Yeah,
The
you're good.
person and the water can and the soil were the things that have remained consistent. So the person, this was made by just writing consistency a whole bunch of times. The water can is writing curiosity over and over, and the soil is just writing 5 dynamics, thousands and thousands of times. And so as we go along and along further, it basically gets from simpler little sapling all the way to a full-grown tree. So the very first idea is like the awareness of something that you want to grow. So we're writing awareness for that whole little tree. As we start to grow, get a little bit bigger, we become like a little bit more aware. And so we wrote awareness for the whole tree and the roots. And as we keep progressing and keep progressing, we get to this guy. And this one was made just by writing growth a bunch of times because this is like the phase that you start to experience growth. And then we finally get to the full mature tree. And this was made, the whole trunk and everything was made by writing Simpli5. And then the leaves, that was made by writing satisfaction. And the roots on this one were actually peace and understanding because that's just the idea that you get. And then the clouds are fun. Those are a little late addition. Those just say Simpli5 as well, I believe. But yeah, you guys will get a chance to see a little bit more of the process, a little bit more of the details going forward. But yeah, it's a really fun little piece.
Yeah, super, super cool. So don't take just Jayce's word for it. Let's actually look at a short video. So Elizabeth, let's roll tape and get a little bit behind the scenes on how that piece came together. So I think there's two quotes that popped to mind. One, I was driving the other day and it's like objects in the mirror might be closer than they appear, which again is not exactly what this is, but really the sum is greater than the parts, right? And that to me is, I think, kind of a fun kind of take on what it looks like from a distance. And then when you actually zoom in, there's something richer and there's more detail. And I think with some of your other pieces that you've done, whether it's sports figures, et cetera, again, you see something, but then when you go closer, and to me, that's what's really so cool about art. There's layers of interpretation. And I think clearly with the amount of detail, meaning microscopic detail, there's a whole bunch of different elevations to get to. So, so for those that might be interested in what you do or where they can find you, throw out some handles and some sites and some marketing sites. Go for it.
Yeah. I can type it in here in a minute, but my whole thing, all my socials, all the stuff like that is just Jayce Hall Arts. And I'll type it in the chat, but it's JayceHallart. And I was just like, a thing to go off of what you're saying is I feel like one of the coolest ideas with this style is kind of, the closer you get, the more details you're going to be able to see. And that just is so true with so many ideas where it's like, okay, if we're looking at this broadly, we can look at it broadly, but like, let's get in depth. Let's see what's going on. But yeah, so I love that.
Yeah, super cool. Well, you don't need your Simpli5 frames to see anything differently, but for those that are curious and watching the video again, it's going to be posted in the virtual lobby. So as you exit the main stage, if you wanted to view it again, it's there for you. Definitely check out Jayce's website. A lot of really cool stuff that's there across a whole spectrum. But Jayce, thanks again for contributing to this summit. The art piece is super cool, and I think it's going to have a very happy home somewhere at some one of the Simpli5 team members, whether it's headquarters or one of our homes. So it's a piece that we'll definitely treasure for years to come.
Love that. Love that.
Cool. All right. Well, we are now going to